listening and you all got quiet, so I Welcome to our Garrett Choral Society annual spring concert. It's called Folk Music from Around the World. I'm Susie Sensel. I'm the president and a proud charter member of this organization for over 40 years. The Garrett Choral Society is extremely grateful for the support that we've received from so many different people, in particular from the Garrett County Arts Council and the Maryland State Arts Council. But if you get some time, please take a minute to look in the back and see the kinds of donations that we require to support this organization. They're all very welcome and much appreciated. A few housekeeping items. The one exit where you came in will be open and available if we need to get out of the building, and there's another exit out that door and out the side. If you need to go to the restrooms are downstairs. If you can't do the stairs, we have an elevator, and that's open and available to anybody who needs that. If you have a phone, please turn it off so that it doesn't interrupt us and you during the concert. There will be a brief intermission about halfway through. The preparation for this concert has been really fun for us, but it's also been quite challenging as we had to learn Estonian and Norwegian and Czech and Japanese and even a dialect from Ghana. So I hope you enjoy today's program. It's my pleasure to introduce our directors, Ms. Debbie Beachy and Dr. Sean Beachy.
Be still, my soul. Be Still My Soul, you might also know that as Finlandia. Finlandia was an orchestral tone poem written by Jean Sibelius in 1899. And Jean Sibelius is considered perhaps the greatest Finnish composer of all time. The piece, like much of his music, was meant to help Finland develop its own identity and independence from Russia. In fact, the piece sometimes had to be performed under a different title to keep it from being less nationalistic. And one title I found was Happy Feelings at the Awakening of Finnish Spring. It actually was an 8 to 9 minute piece, orchestral piece. It's very rousing and turbulent for most of it, which is supposed to represent the struggle of the Finnish people. About maybe 2/3 of the way through, it calms and you hear that hymn that we just sang. And it's actually not a folk song because it is original music that Jean Sibelius wrote, but it has become a national song for Finland, something they recognize kind of like their folk song. Our next piece is going to be really different than that one. You might be surprised, but there's a big connection between these two first songs. This one is called Vietnamen Voya, or Song of the Earth. They both come from the same region of the earth, and also they both contain a hymn that you will recognize. This piece begins with what is called a yoik. And a yoik, when you hear it, might remind you of Native American singing. But it's a tradition of the Sami people of the Nordic region, which includes Iceland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland. The yoik has no particular meaning, but you'll know it when you hear it. It's the very first thing you hear, and the basses sing it about 20 times during the song. That might not be an exaggeration. They sing it a lot. After the yoik has been introduced, soon you will hear the hymn, Fairest Lord Jesus. The tune for Fairest Lord Jesus is actually a Silesian folk song, and it was turned into a hymn in Germany. The Silesian region is mostly Poland, a little bit of Czech, and some of Germany. And in Germany, they put German lyrics to it and made it a hymn, but it was originally a Silesian folk song. All this said, this song that we're getting ready to sing for you is best known as the opening song for the Disney movie Frozen.
No
She's at the piano. Her name is Emily Brooks. She's a senior at Northern Garrett High School, and we have used her. Is used the right word? I don't know. We've hired her several times to come and share her many talents with us. And I'm not sure the bow drum that she just played, she would call one of her talents, but she did great at it. But she definitely is gifted at piano, and you'll hear her later on the flute. And we're just glad that she takes time and comes and plays with us. Our next piece is called The Girl I Left Behind Me. It was written by Dan Forrest. Dan Forrest is definitely one of our favorite composers. I think just about every concert we've had, we've done at least one of his pieces, but they're worth doing. He's currently working on a project called Folk Songs of America. His goal is to write 10 to 14 different settings of folk songs from all around the country. And the first two pieces that he wrote for this project, he published as 2 colonial folk songs, and that includes The Girl I Left Behind Me. This piece, as with most colonial music, has its roots in England or possibly in Ireland. And this text is written from the point of view of a soldier. The soldier has left his love, goes off to battle, but thinks often of the girl he left behind. And there, I didn't really explain it, but they're playing 4-hand piano, 1 piano with 4 hands.
The hours sad and left unpaid, the lingering farewell day, whose sighs and tears must have she laid, I thought her heart was breaking. In hurried words her name I bless, I breathe the vows of God. To my heart an anguished breast, girl left behind me. And there went on
That was a piece called The Dark-Eyed Sailor. It's an English folk song. Ray Vaughan Williams is considered kind of the leading authority on English folk songs. He spent about 30 years collecting English folk songs, traveling around, mostly writing them down by hand. Sometimes he recorded it on a phonograph, but we're talking, the first part of the 20th century. So recording capabilities weren't, a big thing at that time, especially portable like we have in our pockets right now. So he collected actually over 800 English folk songs in that time, which is, I think, a lot. And this is one of them. He did an arrangement of 5 different English folk songs, and this is one from that collection. And this was published in 1913. Next, we're moving on to The Feller from Fortune. This is a Newfoundland folk song. Newfoundland is an island in Canada. It's like northeast of Nova Scotia. And Fortune is actually a town in the southern part of Newfoundland. It's a fishing village, basically. And if you listen to the words of this, there are fishing metaphors that actually are meant to be talking about men chasing women and getting in trouble and unexpected pregnancies, believe it or not, which is kind of crazy. But anyhow, this has been around a long time, but it was first recorded in the 1950s. And this particular arrangement, of which there are many, is by Drew Collins. I hope you enjoy The Feller from Fortune.
New baby.
stuff. Let's see. All right. Kiss Me Softly. No, I don't remember a thing. I let's see. Really don't remember. It's okay. We're bringing back Emily Brooks, this time on flute, and our son, I do remember his name, Evan. He's playing euphonium, and that's right. They paid attention last night when I gave my notes. Thank you. It's not actually a folk song, but it's imitative of a Russian folk song. And we could have done this in Russian, but I decided to let them off the hook. They're learning enough languages in this one, this concert, that we decided to let them do it in English. It talks about how two people, whether they're lovers or friends or family, and how they get separated by either time or space or death. And it talks about the emotions that go with that. It's a beautiful song, and we hope you enjoy it. It's called Kiss Me Softly.
Kiss me
piece is called Bring Your Calabash. And the composer of this piece, or the arranger of this piece, he took a trip to Ghana and was studying about drumming and singing, dancing of the local people there. And he learned this song while he was there. He came home and wrote an arrangement of it. A calabash is a gourd, and it could be used for lots of things. One thing it can be used for is it can be turned into an instrument. And we have one to sing about. They take string and lace it all around and attach beads, and then it works like a shaker. It's actually called that particular one. But in the song, they're talking about using a calabash, cutting it in half, opening it up, and using it as a bowl. And they say, bring your calabash and we'll have some cocoa. And cocoa is not like hot cocoa or cocoa like you might think. It's actually porridge. And let's see, we have some drumming and different things happening on this I think you'll enjoy. And this is our last piece of the first half. So after this, there'll be a short intermission. So you can feel free to get up, stretch your legs, go to the restroom, go outside. It's a beautiful day. But don't leave, because there's lots more music in the second half. But this is Bring Your Calabash. it's a whole lot of fun to sing. And it does come from the check. We're going to go on to our next song. It's called In the Stillness. And it is music written to the lyrics of a haiku. And you probably learned in high school English class what a haiku is. It's a Japanese poem form of a total of 17 syllables. First line contains 5 syllables, second has 7, and the third line has 5 again. And the subject matter is almost always about nature. And the person who wrote this haiku, his name is Shiki Masaoka. And he lived from 1867 to 1902, and he's regarded as one of the greatest masters of haiku. In fact, he was so engrossed in writing haiku, so obsessed with it in a way, that he failed his college exams, lost his scholarship, and had to drop out of college. But he's great at writing haiku. This setting is composed by Audrey Snyder. We will sing it in Japanese and in English. Don't try to count the English syllables, because it doesn't work for the haiku rules. And we are welcoming back Miss Emily Brooks on flute again. This is In the Stillness.
It's believed to be from the early 19th century. And actually, I always thought it was about the Shenandoah River Valley in Northern Virginia, but it's not. In my research, I found out that Shenandoah is actually the name of a Native American chieftain in New York. And the chieftain befriended fur traders and trappers, and one in particular wanted to even marry his daughter. But that's basically coming back to see this Native American chief is what the song's about. And it talks about the wide Missouri because at that time, fur traders and trappers would go all the way out that far. And in the early part of the 19th century, that was a pretty vast expanse. We didn't have nearly the people or cities out there, obviously, that we have now. That's one of my favorite pieces. Next, we're going to move on to an interesting piece. It's called Tres Cantos Nativos. And with Tres Cantos, that means 3 songs. It's a Brazilian song that comes from, or is based on music of a Brazilian tribe in the northern part of Brazil called the Cabo tribe. And the composer of this piece, Marcos Leite, what is a Brazilian native himself, so he had some experiences. The melodies that you're going to hear in this piece are freely composed, which just means that they're not exact representations of the melodies, but ones that you may have heard similar if you've heard these tribes. This is in 3 parts. You're going to hear percussion. You're going to hear sounds of the Amazon jungle. And at the very beginning, we're going to do something unique. And what I want you to do is just sit and relax. And if you want to, close your eyes and just experience the Amazon in all its glory, including the weather that's there.
Josire. Macho, Josire, Josire, 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 Macho, Josire,
And we're a little hesitant about doing the movement. Next, we're going to move on to an African American spiritual. Soon I Will Be Done. This arrangement was done by William L. Dawson in the middle part of the century. He was a Tuskegee Institute graduate, and I think the Institute's press actually published this first. This would have been a song written way before that time, in the 19th century most likely. And when Africans, West Africans, were brought over to this country as slaves, they brought their culture with them. And so in West African culture, there were different songs for different everyday events. And one was a work song, which is exactly what this is. It's also called a field song. So this would have been a song that they sung in the fields while they were working. African American spirituals often have dual meanings. First, a biblical meaning. And so it talks about seeing Jesus when we die, getting to meet Jesus, getting to meet God. But it also says, soon I will be done with the troubles of this world. And so it also is about them being freed as slaves. So, and every African American spiritual is that way. And often they talk about rivers and the River Jordan and crossing over the river, which is a reference to the Ohio River. So this is Soon I Will Be Done.
Soon we'll be done with the troubles of the world, troubles of the world, the troubles of the world. Soon we'll be done with the troubles of the world, gone home to live with God. Soon we'll be done with the troubles of the world, troubles of the world, the troubles of the world. Soon we'll be done with the troubles of the world, gone home to live with God. I want to meet my mother, I want to meet my mother, I want to meet my mother. I'm going to live with God. I want to meet my mother, I want to meet my mother, I want to meet my mother. I'm going to live with God. Soon we'll be done with the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the world. Soon we'll be done with the troubles of the world, gone home to live with God. Soon we'll be done with the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the world. Soon we'll be done with the troubles of the world, gone home to live with God.
No more,
No more
reaping and a
wailing,
wailing. No more,
no more
reaping and a wailing.
wailing,
No more,
no more be done with the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world. Soon it will be done with the troubles of the world. On home to live with God. Soon it will be done with the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the world. Soon it will be done with the troubles of the world. On home to live with God. I want to meet my Jesus. I want to meet my Jesus. I want to meet my Jesus. I want to live with God. I want to meet my Jesus. I want to meet my Jesus. I want to meet my Jesus. Gone to live with God. I'm gone to live with God. I'm gone to live with God.
This next piece is by an Estonian composer named Garrett. Estonia has actually a long tradition of music, folk music. This does not happen to be a folk tune, but I wanted to give you characteristic when I picked this piece of what modern Estonian music sounds like. The primary composer is Arvo Pärt. And he had an idea that most of his music is based on bells, or tintinnabule. And this kind of has that kind of somewhat of a similar compositional technique in it too. If you didn't know, Estonia is actually a sister country to the state of Maryland. So the different towns in Maryland often have a sister city, and I know several mayors in this county were able to go over through the help of the National Guard, my father being one of them, and mother, and experience that culture, and then they would come over here and do an exchange. So it's pretty cool that we have that. And if you're wanting to hear more traditional Estonian folk music and the instruments, there is an Estonian music group coming here. I think it's on June 4th, right here in Oakland. And I think the town is going to be sponsoring it. And if you have any questions about it, you can call the town. I'm not even sure where it is. Can't remember, but call the town. And do you know?
Yeah, it's at the Armory.
The Armory. Okay, great.
It's now called something
Yeah,
else.
so check that out because Estonia has some cool folk instruments, one of which is a bagpipe, believe it or not. Actually, a lot of countries do have bagpipes. I don't know if that's good or bad. Depends if you like bagpipes. So, this piece is a beautiful piece, and I hope you enjoy Musica.
Oh,
This was a very popular form of entertainment in America and included comic skits, variety acts, dancing, and musical performances. Unfortunately, minstrel shows were largely known for making fun of slaves. Performers often dressed in blackface and portrayed slaves as dim-witted, lazy, and superstitious. Although this was a dark time in our country's history, much of the music is considered the first style of American popular music. An example is the music of Stephen Foster, who is known as the father of American popular music. It was during his career as a minstrel composer that he wrote songs that you probably know, like Camptown Races, Swanee River, My Old Kentucky Home, Oh Susanna, and even Beautiful Dreamer. Aaron Copland, who took the original, rewrote it, he made a point of rewriting the lyrics to remove any of the song's minstrel baggage. Copeland said this, quote, "I did not want to take any chance of it being considered as racist." I, for one, am really glad he did that because this piece has gone on to become, especially this arrangement of it by Irving Fine, it has gone on to become standard choral literature, and I love this piece. It's so much fun to sing, and we hope that you enjoy it. Ching-a-ring chong.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate the support of this community, not only for our group, but for all of the community groups, the Garrett Community Concert Band, the Jazz Band, and the Southern Middle School program that was this weekend. So please continue to support the arts in this county. We don't want any of this to go away, and we need your support. So ticket prices are just part of it. the Garrett County Arts Council and the Maryland State Arts Council was just part of it, but we rely on extra donations outside of that. So in your program, you'll find an envelope, and if you feel so inclined to give a little extra to us to help support the operating costs of this group. Music is extremely expensive, believe it or not, when you have to buy this many copies. It can run into the thousands of dollars every year. So if you so feel inclined, we would gladly accept any extra donations that you can give us. So thank you so much. And thank you for coming. And I'll pass it on to my wife to finish.
Our last piece, our encore piece for you is one that's dear to me. The choir that I sang in college, almost every performance we concluded with this piece. And its verse is perfect. It says, God be with you till we meet again.
Enjoy your summer, and we hope to see you again the next time we